Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'll go ahead and call this City Council meeting and public hearing for City of Alpharetta, November 17th, 2025. Call the meeting to order. Note for the record, all members of council are present and accounted for except for Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, who will not be able to join us. And before we get started, for those of you that are working from the printed agenda, I wanted to let you know that a couple of things have been changed so you don't waste your time if you came for a specific item. The following items have been deferred and will not be considered this evening. The first being E-25-09 Activate Games Sign Exception. That item has been deferred until December 1st. And then the next item deferred was Z-25-07/CU-25-15/V-25-20. That's the Alpharetta District Places. That's been deferred until December 8th. And PH-25-18 Hudson Park, the change of condition. That one has been deferred. I don't have a date on that one. And then Z-25-11 O'Neill/322 North Main Street has been withdrawn by the applicant and will not be considered during this meeting. So just wanted to save you some time if you were looking for any of those items. And as always, we begin our meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're willing and able, please stand and join us. So the first item up this evening will be the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the City Council meeting minutes from the meeting of November 3rd, 2025. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on that item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak about the consent agenda, now is your chance to do so. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment on that item. Do I have a motion from council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilman Hypes, second by Councilman Mitchell. Any discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the new business portion of tonight's meeting. And that is PH-25-17, North Point Development Plan and Tax Allocation District. This is the first public hearing for this item occurred during November 3rd, 2025, the City Council meeting. Ms. Eswine? Pardon?
I apologize for that. I've been fighting it. A resolution creating the Alpharetta Tax Allocation District, Number 3, North Point Mall and Activity Center, designating the City of Alpharetta as the redevelopment agency, adopting a redevelopment plan, establishing the tax allocation increment base, establishing the intent to issue tax allocation bonds or pursue commercial financing, and for other related purposes.
Kathy, would you like to introduce our guest?
So we previously had the workshop, which was in September. We had the first public hearing November 3rd. This will be our second public hearing. And of course, if the council wishes to move it forward, we would look for a vote at the end of the presentation if council chooses. We also have special counsel here. If there's any questions, David Dove is with us. If you have any questions after Gary's presentation, then I'll go ahead and turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, you have the floor.
Yes. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I've been asked just to do a really brief summary of the redevelopment plan and be here in case there are any questions from the public or from you before you consider the resolution. You can go to the next slide. And just a reminder that this redevelopment plan has been prepared under the Georgia Redevelopment Powers Law, and it relates to tax increment financing, which is basically the ability within a tax allocation district to use incremental growth in property taxes to pay for either development incentives or public improvements that are necessary to make that development feasible or to, in this case, accomplish the goals of the community. And a TAD is kind of similar to the kinds of agreements that your development authority negotiates. The advantages of a TAD is it can be used for public improvements, and the revenues generated anywhere within the district can also be spent anywhere within the district. And unlike the activities of your development authority, county and school district consent is voluntary to tax allocation districts. And this is in conjunction with the authority that voters granted to the City Council back in 2006. If you go to the process, the next slide shows where we are in this process. We've spent the last 3 or 4 months working with your staff, going through an analytical process, drafting the plan, having the first public hearing last month, and tonight you would consider adoption. Typically, questions arise, will the county and school district consent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the way the process is set up, they don't have to talk to you until a plan is drafted, it's been adopted, you've passed your resolution, and the TAD exists. So hopefully those discussions about consent and under what conditions they might consent will happen sometime next year. And county and school policy pretty much says we don't even want to talk until we have a good idea of what's the project that we're being asked to support. And as of right now, there has not been a specific project proposed for the TAD, so hopefully between now and the time consent discussions start, that proposal will become more clear for the mall and the area surrounding the North Point Mall. The next slide is the tax allocation district itself. We went through a long analytical process with staff. The end of that process basically decided to propose an area that is somewhat similar to TAD number 2, which focused on this same area back 2 years ago, back in 2019. The district is, however, it's about 200 acres smaller, includes 150 parcels, it's about 640 acres. The tax digest for 2025 is a little over $264.6 million, and it's less than 3% of your city digest. So while it's important, fiscally to the community and your tax base moving forward, today it's only 3% of your tax digest. And I would argue that it's performing, much lower than it could be based on the location and the potential land uses out there. So that's really the purpose of this TAD, is to give you the tools to generate the type of development in that part of the city that the community is advocating, which is primarily mixed use. If you go to the next slide, at the last hearing, we went through details in terms of the projects within the TAD. This is just a summary slide. Basically, the TAD talks about the redevelopment of the mall site, the 3 other planned projects in the area that are going to happen in some form. Again, The tax digest today is a little under $265 million. We believe that existing development and proposed investment, this part of the city could someday, 15 years from now, support perhaps $3.4 billion in total investment. Really depends in large part on what the redevelopment plan for the mall is, what anchors it, whether it's primarily residential, mixed use. Again, details to be determined. And if that were to happen, we anticipate that by 2040, the tax digest could go from a little over $250 million to something closer to $1.4 billion of tax digest, which is a 400% increase over what's there today. You may never get to 400%. You may go a lot more than 400%, but the argument is without the tax allocation district and the ability of the city to really influence what goes on there, you won't know. So that's really, why the tool is in place. The next slide talks about, if this all happens, this growth happens, this investment happens, how much does that generate in terms of tax allocation increment, which is basically incremental city, county, and school taxes over and above what exists today. And the law requires that redevelopment plans assume that the county and school district are going to consent, and this analysis is done in this table with the assumption that they're going to consent in full for the entire length of the district. That's the way the statute's written. That's the way redevelopment plans are supposed to be written. May or may not happen in practice. But basically, if this level of investment occurs at over 30 years, which tends to be, the maximum length of these districts being in existence, we're talking about $950 million in incremental taxes. The bottom row of this table calculates if you collected that much incremental revenue to the TAD fund over 30 years, what could it support in terms of total investment? Capital, the actual capital budgets, and it's about $379 million. In practice, most tax allocation districts don't exist for 30 years. They exist for a period of time until they get the job done if they're successful. And so the total revenue is going to be something less than that amount. The next slide talks about uses of TAD proceeds and kind of assumes that, again, something less than $370 million would actually be available as a net effective contribution to redevelopment costs. And we've estimated that that number could be anywhere from $225 to $280 million, that this tool could help contribute to a redevelopment plan for the mall that maximizes its investment value and value to the community. And that's basically 60 to 75% of the maximum. And then just one more slide, just kind of talking about some of the other provisions in the redevelopment plan. Most important, it says that the City Council will function as the redevelopment agency for this TAD. You may choose to delegate that responsibility down the road, but you are the redevelopment agency and make all decisions in terms of development agreements, intergovernmental agreements with the county and school district. You are in charge of this. The TAD, if you approve the resolution tonight, would start as of December 31st and would be in existence until all redevelopment costs are paid, which is likely to be, a maximum of 30 years. But typically, debt instruments, if they're issued, are about 25 years. So as long as there are no outstanding debt obligations, you can, either if they're already paid or if for whatever reason something doesn't happen and this doesn't move forward, you could dissolve the TAD at any time as long as there are no outstanding debt obligations. Plans are required to talk about potential financing, so we've written this to give you maximum flexibility in terms of how you would finance redevelopment projects, whether it's issuing bonds, using some other form of commercial financing, or just entering into annual reimbursement agreements, or any combination of those. You have the flexibility to do that as is written in the redevelopment plan. And then finally, there is one statement in the report that enables you to reserve the option to consider pledging tax allocation increment from commercial personal property taxes and/or the city's share of local option sales taxes. Doesn't mean you'll do it. Doesn't mean you're encouraged to do it. It just gives you that flexibility to consider it down the road. Many of these redevelopment plans just state right out front that we're only pledging the real estate portion of local property taxes and preclude the option of considering anything else. And we just believe that this investment could be large enough that you would at least want to keep that door open. So that's basically what the plan says, and it's been a pleasure working on this report. Your staff's been fantastic. You're in good hands in terms of implementation if you decide to move forward.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions? Councilman Dorito?
Since your last presentation, the public hearing, I went through this in a little bit more detail. I just
Sure.
have a couple of follow-up questions, clarifications, I guess. With the TAD, if it's put in place and everything goes according to what we'd like to see it, how it gets rolled out with the county support and the school board support, it's a 30-year, basically, TAD, right? Or it could be extended just by future city councils extending the TAD. There's no, like, end in near as far as how long the TAD could go on, right?
Well, yes, if 20 years from now, a future council decides to issue bonds to do something else within the district that have a
can do that.
20-year term, it could.
That's what I was getting to.
Yes. Yes.
That is part of what a TAD can do in the future as well, right?
Yes.
And likewise, they can decide to disband the TAD, right?
Yes, as long as there are no outstanding debt obligations, you can dissolve the TAD at any time. And a number of cities have succeeded in doing that. East Point is one example. The Camp Creek Marketplace TAD was dissolved after about 13 or 14 years. Everything got paid off.
Just thinking long-term, because none of us will probably be up here when this TAD is still going on, but just trying to be responsible now. The TAD area that's defined in this TAD number 3, is pretty much a commercial area of the city.
Yes.
And right now, our commercial ratio versus residential ratio of property taxes, it's about 55%, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Harris, 55% commercial property tax revenues and 45% residential property taxes. So since we're setting up a TAD within a very large commercial district, I'd just like to get your professional feedback on down the road, because any incremental increase in valuation of the TAD area, the 600-something acres, that money goes down to pay the bond debt or whatever financing the city council now or in the future decides to embark upon, right? Do you ever see a TAD, or is there a possibility where the burden of the incremental financing, paying off the bonds, and the growth of the city, whether it being public safety or what have you, where the residential homeowner will eventually start feeling an impact of increased taxes to pick up the burden of the lost commercial taxes that's created by this TAD?
Well, first thing to say is that the base value of the district, which is digest of the district, $260+ million, you will always get city taxes off of that base. If you choose not to pledge personal property or the local, or your share of the local option sales tax, and the value of that real estate increases fourfold, those revenue sources are going to go up as well. So it's not that there's going to be no revenue from this TAD for 20 or 30 years. That's point one. Point two would be, again, the ability to finance off of this. A first round of bond issues or tranches, say, everything goes well, in 3 to 4 years, you're ready to issue bonds to do a major project. The amount you can leverage is really only based on the value of what that project's going to produce. And we've designed this district so that it includes, the North Point Mall, 3 projects that are kind of in the works that will hopefully create increment and not ask for any revenues from the TAD. And it's designed to capture the spin-off effects of what this development's going to do in terms of enhancing the value of other properties, encouraging them to make investments as well. So my expectation is, if this goes very, very well, 15 years from now, this district's going to be generating excess increment over and above what's necessary to pay debt service on bonds. If that is the case, then the city has some flexibility to use its share of the tax allocation increment to perhaps do a payment in lieu of taxes back to the general fund and do that. Same thing with the county and school district. If there are increased educational service costs, for example, and that's written into an intergovernmental agreement, you can basically, money goes in from the school district to the TAD fund, you write a check back as a payment in lieu of taxes to help offset increased service costs. So there are mechanisms to do that.
And I raised the question not to sound like I'm not against the TAD.
I understand. No, it's a good question. It's a very good question.
I'm raising the question because I want the public to hear and understand what the city council is doing here. It's not just we're approving a tax allocation district. There's a lot of thought that has gone into this to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen, the question I raised. And the reason why it won't happen, on top of what you just said, is we'll see increased sales tax revenues, excise tax revenues, hotel motel tax revenues, right?
Absolutely.
That will basically, in effect, be diverted to the general fund and for continued growth within our departments or what have you, or public safety, because obviously things will grow. As that is successful, we hope our departments grow to be able to support the services in those areas. So,
yeah. And I would just point out that these 690 acres, in terms of that tax base, has not increased as fast as the city as a whole. And the mall section of it is actually, we reported last time, that the digest has gone down. It's lost $100 million in value almost. The office parks in that part of the city, vacancy rates are higher than the city average. So the trend line is not, rosy, that the, revenues are going to continue to grow from that area if you do nothing. The reality is, if you do nothing, chances are those, in the best case scenario, growth is going to be probably half the city average or flat, and in the worst case could be negative. And when you include sales taxes, again, off the 94-acre mall site, when you include sales taxes, what the jurisdictions collected back in 2018, 2019, before, these negative trends started, versus what they're collecting today, it's substantially less, but it's been masked by the growth throughout the rest of the city and Fulton County as a whole.
And you mentioned December 31st. That's this December 31st. The TAD would go into effect if it's approved by the council, correct?
Excuse me, I didn't.
It'll be effective December 31st
Yes.
of this year.
Yes.
If it gets approved by the city council.
Right, and negotiations with the county and school district, again, would go into next year. If you were to succeed with those IGAs, theoretically, the first contributions to the TAD fund could come with taxes issued in 2026. Chances are that increment would be very, very, very small. So oftentimes, we do negotiations, and then the first year in which all the taxing jurisdictions are making payments to the TAD fund are likely to be, in the best case, probably from taxes collected in 2027 and paid, early 2028.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Councilman Brady?
So would you label this an economic development tool?
Yeah, it could be, absolutely. Again, it depends what the reuse plan for the mall is. We've looked, in the redevelopment plan, there's a discussion of 10 or 12 different kinds of projects. And mall redevelopment projects, when they were built, the anchors were department stores. Department stores aren't a big deal anymore. So all these sites are becoming, they're either primarily residential, they get rid of all the excess retail, they become residential, they replace enclosed shopping malls with some kind of smaller retail district, or they find some other anchor. Could be office, could be any number of things, major employer, major attractions, and in those cases, they become, much bigger than just a residential project. They employ potentially thousands of people. They could, generate incredible amounts of revenue in terms of sales taxes, that kind of thing. So I would say this is probably your prime redevelopment site left in the city, and if you can increase its value fourfold, chances are you'll create a lot of jobs. Yeah.
So, I mean, just talking through it, right? The core of what we know, we've had a lot of discussions, but like I said, just for the public listening in, we've lost 2 anchors at North Point Mall. That's been a focus of the city to focus on this particular corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The mapping that you have here outlines just about every parcel that could be affected in some way.
Yes.
Due to traffic improvements, and that's even over into Haynesbridge, across the bridge. Those kind of improvements, and you think about traffic, walkability, multimode, all the things we kind of talked about, those are the affected pieces. What we don't know today, as part of this, is what those improvements would be, what those dollars would be, or what would actually be in the place. And I see this more of a sequential statutory process, that a little bit, if you have to follow the sequence in order to have a positive outcome, right? So it is statutory. But we don't know today, but really what we're kind of creating is the right framework to be able to have us positioned with the right tools, the right economic development tools to assist this particular area in the future. But we don't know what those are today. We don't know any cost. We don't know what the project would be. We do not know those things, but we're preparing for that. That's the best way. That's why I say it's a tool. We're preparing for the future, that when that comes, whatever that project might be, we would be in a great position to be able to create the right infrastructure, the right impacts for our citizens around this area and all the parcels that are affected. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I would just add that you may not know the specifics, but as a city, you've done a lot of planning over the last 20 years almost. And I think what you do know is what the residents of this community want to see in that area. Which, based on that, that's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to need a lot of public improvements. And the desire is to have more people living in that part of the city. So, I think the hardest part in many cases is just defining, a consensus of the community in terms of what it wants. And as council, you are adopting a tool to help implement what the community has asked for. And if you don't do it, chances are it's not going to happen. I've read lots and lots of comprehensive plans that don't have a snowball's chance of ever happening because they're just not, they're not realistic and they don't have the implementation tools to get it done. So that's what you're trying to do here, is basically implement the vision that the community has asked for.
Thank you.
I do have one. Okay. I have one question, and touch on something you had discussed a little while ago about the TAD, the typical terms of 30 years, the potential for expanding it longer, and council being able to do that, or future councils being able to limit. I'm curious, in your experience, if you've seen, because I was involved in creating our previous TAD. Unfortunately, our timing was horrible, and COVID hit, and the property went down, so we decided to dissolve that original TAD rather than it accruing interest. But the one thing I'm curious about is, if we are going to be very successful with this, I think we'll need participation by Fulton County and the Fulton County school system. Now, I don't know what that'll look like. We'll begin to have those conversations, as I did and our team did several years ago. We had started having those initial conversations when all of a sudden everything hit the fan, and we decided, look, this is pointless. Let's come back when there might be something productive to talk about. And so I'm curious, since I didn't get an opportunity to talk about those negotiations in depth and in detail, do the parties involved, the city council, the city of Alpharetta, Fulton County, and Fulton County school system, have the ability to come up with limitations to their participation?
Yeah, absolutely. Intergovernmental agreements for tax allocation districts have gotten more and more and more complex in detail over the years.
Right.
So I would anticipate, if you're able to get consent, that there will be a whole range of limitations imposed. There will be performance criteria, sunset provisions if nothing happens. There will probably be limitations. To get back to answer your thing I forgot to mention on your question about how long could this go, counties and school districts often have leverage in terms of, hey, you may want this to go 50 years, but we're out X date. So there's those kind of provisions. There are, provisions for pilot payments in lieu of taxes. For whatever, for school districts, it's about educational service costs. For counties, I'll just give you an example of Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County was fine consenting to the city TADs in Duluth and Norcross and Lilburn and Lawrenceville, but they did not want to pledge the county recreation millage for whatever reason. So we said fine. So they get a payment in lieu of taxes. They pledge, the entire county millage rate, and then, that revenue comes in January and February. Duluth sends them a check for the county portion of the recreational millage. So those kinds of agreements can be worked out. Again, it's the bigger the project, the bigger the economic development impact, the more this means to the county and the school district. That's the leverage to get them to participate. This isn't a small project in Union City somewhere. I mean, this is going to be a regionally significant economic development project, regardless of what it is. The location is just too good. So again, the arguments, you'll have the arguments at the time the project itself starts to materialize. But again, these agreements all parties have gotten more sophisticated. And it's all about protecting the public interest. And the county commission and the board of education have the same interests that you have. And as long as parties are willing to talk, you can reach a deal. There's some, if it's a philosophical thing, there are some jurisdictions that just won't talk to you, period. That's not Fulton County. It's some other counties, where the answer is no, don't even come. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I did want to make sure that we had some clarity. I know there are concerns from people in the community that will be, negatively impacting either the county or the school system.
Absolutely.
And that's not our intention. I've been quite open with both parties all the way out. It's like, we're all in this together.
Sure.
So hopefully we'll be able to figure it out, and it might take some time and a lot of lawyers to figure it out. But I think we're looking for a win-win-win for all of us. Absolutely. That's the goal. Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you. Yes, I would agree with that, and also with what Councilman Brady had stated earlier. 2 years ago at the state leadership conference, the stated goal or the stated growth pattern for Georgia was this 13-county northern arc that surrounds Atlanta, including Atlanta, but Forsyth, Gwinnett, and Cherokee, and all these surrounding counties would grow by 50% within the next 10 years. And that was 2 years ago. So given that projected growth, which seems to be on target, and your statement that this 94-acre site is in an ideal location, is it true that with the demographics here that we have in Alpharetta and the surrounding communities, do we really have a choice on this TAD? I mean, it's either going to grow in a proper way or it's going to go down, and that's really not a good choice for the county, the school, or Alpharetta. Is that correct?
Well, in the short term, it's going to go down. It's never going to go down to zero because it's too valuable. I think the way to frame it is that, you know, the market will take its course and it'll look like whatever your zoning allows it to look like. You know, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years from now, it might be a $750 million project, and people will say, boy, that's great. If you proactively, like you're trying to do, stay in the game, provide incentives, negotiate, get the kind of development the community wants, then, you know, it's a $2 billion project. And so that's the trade-off. Do you want to give yourself the flexibility, the tools to influence the future of that part of the city, which again is less than 3% of your tax base today, or do you just let the market take its course and, you know, wait for people to come before this body and request zoning changes or whatever they do to get permits, and that's what happens. And that's your option, basically.
So whether it's a stadium or whether it's an enhanced mixed-use development that draws a regional and state draw because of its proximity to 400 and MARTA, the rapid bus transit and things like that, it makes it ideal for a very fertile.
Absolutely. I mean, we looked at redevelopment sites, you know, shopping mall redevelopment sites. There's like 8 or 9 of them discussed in the redevelopment plan. Smaller sites, poorer markets, worse locations. And we're talking 400, 600, $800 million projects. Your site's like twice as big in a much better location. So again, I think that, you know, the potential is enormous here. And it's really, you know, what you want as a community and staying in the game and trying to influence what happens there to the best interest of the city and the county and the school district as well.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Milne-John? How do I pronounce your name? Was that close?
Very good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this item, now is your chance to do so. I don't see anyone come forward, so we will close public comment on this item. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, John.
Yes, Mayor. I make a motion that council adopt the resolution as referenced by City Attorney Molly Eswine to approve the redevelopment plan to create tax allocation district number 3, Alpharetta North Point Activity Center.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion, gentlemen? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone that's been involved getting up to this point. There's been a lot of work outside the city council meetings. Much thanks to Community Development, Kathy Cook's team, and Tom Harris's team in finance, and even I know Public Works has been involved from an infrastructure standpoint in discussing all this. There's been some great comments made this evening and in past public hearings regarding this very viable piece of property in our city. It's got such potential. When you look at the fact that the valuation of this acreage that we're talking about tonight for TAD number 3, where we've lost 45% valuation of this area of the city, and obviously reduced tax rateables as a result of that. I know in my current term of office, this is my 4th year here, when I first joined this council 4 years ago, we were discussing this and heading up to discussing a TAD for the future of this area. We had one opportunity to redevelop the North Point Mall corridor there that includes this acreage, and it was turned down by the city council for very good reason, because it was mainly rental housing units that are being committed to, and we couldn't get any concurrency on the other elements of the project that we wanted to see made part and parcel of it. I think this tax allocation district will not only be a significant, as Councilman Brady alluded to, a significant community economic development opportunity for the city, but it'll definitely attract both investment and, you know, the elephant in the room is we've been talking to the NHL. I know it's been public, so I'm not saying anything that's secretive. But I think the council's been looking at this as developing this area the right way, smart growth for the city, not necessarily because we want to attract the NHL here, but certainly this tax allocation district puts Alpharetta, I think, front and center on the ability to negotiate with the NHL and possibly bring expansion team here, or maybe even another sporting team to Alpharetta, which would enhance the economic viability of the city. This is such a sweet spot within North Fulton County. And my biggest goal here is one of the city council people up here in supporting this TAD this evening, is to make sure that we maintain the economic viability of the city. We are an economic powerhouse today. We've gone through some very difficult economic times, just like the rest of the nation, but we have continued to see growth during those periods of time. And it's because of decisions like this that previous councils have made and our professional staff here at City Hall that has worked really tirelessly to maintain an edge against our competitors, other cities around us and other counties around us. And I'm really proud of us bringing this forth this evening. I hope this council supports it, and I think they will, to move forward, because the next phase of this is to hopefully attract the right investor to come in and revitalize that area of the city, which is sorely needed. I think it was the mayor that spoke about our residents talking about the need to revitalize this area. In my recent campaign for re-election, I think this is one of the top questions and discussions that many of my residents had with me on the campaign trail, and it was not necessarily it was more frustration, like, why is it taking so long? It's a beautiful piece of property as far as attracting the right investment. And I think sometimes Rome can't be built in a day, but I think we've done a lot of good steps here to reach to this pinnacle in creating the TAD this evening that will literally be one of those decisions that all of us on the City Council tonight will look back 10 years from now and say, that was a great decision. And look what it's brought to the city of Alpharetta for the future, and maintaining us as an economic engine in the region. And I think whether or not we bring a sports team here or not, I will say this will definitely attract a potential sports team to come here by setting up this TAD. And we still have a lot to do in negotiating with Fulton County Schools and Fulton County, but I think they are good partners, as the mayor alluded to, and will collaborate well in the best interest of all of us. So I support this evening, and I'm really proud to be here on the City Council to place this vote in support of the TAD.
Any other discussion? Councilman Mitchell.
I would concur with that. In my 14 and a half years on council, I'm glad that these last 2 months I get to play a role in this redevelopment, the beginning of this. It may take various shapes and forms based on on what development comes through there. But to take it from 3% of our tax digest to over 1.4 billion is a no-brainer for me. It's just, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and if you plan accordingly and appropriately, like we've tried to do as a council for these last decades as a city, it's because of all the planning, as Councilman, my fellow councilman alluded to, Dorito. Alpharetta is successful today because council members and the public have voted to support things like this and to support the growth and planning for that growth. And so I'm happy to be able to support this tonight.
Any other discussion? That being said, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the purchase approval for the wireless access point replacement with MGT Impact Solutions, LLC. Mr. Montgomery, I believe you have the floor now. That's why those news reporters are here.
It's all for me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you is the replacement of our wireless access points, or more commonly known as the Wi-Fi in the city. And so this includes not just City Hall, but all the buildings. This was discussed, the technical details of this was discussed 2 weeks ago in executive session at the November 3rd meeting. Tonight is the hopefully an approval to start this project to replace the wireless access points that we have throughout our buildings. It is, the request is for $118,353.50 to MGT Impact Solutions. Part of what they will do is come in and do a deeper dive assessment to make certain that we've done our homework and that we have the right number of access points available. Once that determination is done, the access points will be installed. They will replace or remove all of our current infrastructure and implement the new access points and configure them for us. With that, I don't have anything else. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Montgomery on this item? Must have done a great job. No other questions. Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if you'd like to come forward and speak about the purchase approval of the wireless access point replacement, now's your chance. Don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council? Oh, pardon. Did I ask about public comment yet?
You did, Mr. Mayor. We're good.
Okay, just checking. I wasn't sure. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the wireless access point replacement with MGT Impact Solutions Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $118,353.53. I'm sorry, and 50 cents, with the authorization of the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Mitchell, a second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion on this item?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr. Montgomery, or Director Montgomery, for all the hard work and diligence you've put into studying this. It's never quite been right in the City Hall with all the access points, but hopefully this will make it, bring it up to par, and so thank you.
As I said, technology changes over 11 years. So, yeah, it's about time we do this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir. Do I have a motion from council? Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all talked so much about that, I lost track. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Next item is purchase approval for renewal of Nova Coast, Inc. You have the item.
This item, again, because of some of the cybersecurity nature of it, was discussed in executive session 2 weeks ago at November 3rd. This is a renewal of an agreement we already have today and have had for a number of years with Nova Coast Managed Services. It is in the amount, this year's renewal is a slight increase. That is a result of two things, a price increase that was announced and additional licenses that were needed as we grow. And so asking for approval to Nova Coast in the amount of $113,000.
Thank you,
Answer
sir.
any questions?
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if you'd like to come forward and speak on this matter, now's your chance. Don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask the council to please approve the renewal of Nova Coast Incorporated, contract GS 35F-246BA for asset management and vulnerable mitigation software in an amount not to exceed $113,000, with the authorization of the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Mitchell and a second by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously. So we'll move right along to the next item, which is the professional services agreement and purchase approval for Carasoft Technology Corporation. Ms. Shapiro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for this item, staff is seeking the council to approve a professional services agreement and the purchase of software through a third-party company called Carasoft Technology Corporation. They have a national cooperative purchasing alliance to sell software at essentially a discounted rate. This is the third year that, if it's approved, that we'd be utilizing this software. It's through a company called eCivis, and they have a web-based product called Grants Network, and that is the software that we use for researching and auditing, and also kind of tracking grants that we're applying for and interested in over time. So it is an interdepartmental software that we use. We also, with our grant management consultants, Whit O'Brien's, we coordinate with their team and sharing information back and forth through that portal as well. So for this year's renewal, it was $45,120, and we are just asking for you all to approve the agreement and the purchase of the software. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Shapiro on this item? Did great. We do have a question. You must have missed something. Councilman Hypes.
With respect to the grants, and so we've got the grant firm and the grant software, is there a running total of what the city has received by way of grants? Either by a fiscal year or last fiscal year total?
I could run a report. I don't have it with me this evening. I wonder if Tom maybe knows. I don't have it with me this evening. I do know that we have a couple of grants. I mentioned earlier this year when we reapproved our contract with Whit O'Brien's. We did have one grant that we decided not to move forward with. We have one currently that's in progress with CDBG funds that our grant firm has kind of been helping us with as well. And then we have another application that's coming forward to council, I believe at the December 1st or the December 8th council meeting out of public safety. This is a new one that we haven't applied for. I don't have the exact number, but
Yeah, I
can find.
absolutely don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, we had 100K, 500K total. What are we looking at?
Definitely more than 100, probably closer to 500K, if not over that, in terms of awards. I would say in the last calendar year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Shapiro. Now, did we go to public comment on this?
We have not yet, but we do not have any cards this evening for this item.
However, if you'd like to come forward, now's your chance to speak up on this item. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that council approve a professional services agreement between the City of Alpharetta and Carasoft Technology Corporation for grant management software in the amount not to exceed $45,120 and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes to approve and a second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Hyde.
I was eliciting the question from or the answer from our city clerk because they've been driving this initiative for grants. And so often we sit up here and we approve appropriations of money. They're necessary expenses, but nonetheless expenses. And here we're spending money, but it's actually an investment. So anytime we can spend $45,000 or money on an outside grant firm and get $500K or more in return, that's good for our residents. And we've got people on city staff like Ms. Shapiro who are keeping us focused on being good stewards of the dollar, so I appreciate it.
And Councilman Brady.
I'm just going to resonate that absolutely, because I'm absolutely thrilled. And I know when you started that questioning, it was kind of what's the ROI on $45,000 a year, and obviously it's over tenfold just for this year alone. And so these are the things that actually have a huge impact to our financial structure going forward. So absolutely support it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Then I'll call for a motion. Okay. You see, when y'all elaborate that long, I lose track. Short attention span. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the ordinance for the massage and spa established text amendments. This is the second reading. The first public hearing occurred during the November 3rd, 2025 City Council meeting. And Ms. Eswine, if you could please read the ordinance title aloud and present.
An ordinance by the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, amending Article 9 of Chapter 10 of the Code of the City of Alpharetta to amend regulations regarding massage establishments and spa establishments to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. So as you mentioned, Mayor, the first public hearing has occurred. There have been no changes to the draft since the first public hearing. And as a reminder, this is simply to incorporate language recommended by the GBI for implementing the fingerprinting requirement that is included in the ordinance so that the FBI will approve the ordinance. The FBI actually reviews the ordinance, and so they've been buckling down on some of the requirements and things that the FBI actually wants to see, and so we've expanded and added some additional definitions related to corporate entities that may be applicants, LLCs, corporations, partnerships, added that all in and clarified the procedures related to it.
Thank you very much. Anyone on council have a question about the presentation? Thank you, Ms. Eswine. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not for this item, sir.
However, if you'd like to come forward and speak on the massage ordinance, now's your chance. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment on that item. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that council approve the ordinance referenced by the city attorney proposing modifications to Chapter 10, Article 9 of the Code of City of Alpharetta regarding requirements and procedures governing background checks to clarify requirements for applications for licensing and permitting, to provide for relevant definitions, and to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Heights and a second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of this item, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. And the announcement of the public hearing procedures. Ms. Eswine, if you would take care of that for us.
An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application. Opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer rebuttal if any time is remaining in the original allotted 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Director Cook, I believe you had this item.
Mayor and Council, the next item is shown to you on the screen, and the submitted request, if approved, will allow for the construction of 2 for-sale single-family detached lots on approximately .84 acres. The density is 2.3 dwelling units per acre, and a rezoning is requested from CUP to R15, and a variance is requested to reduce the front setbacks. Property is located at 10235 Waters Road, near the northeast corner of Waters Road and Jones Bridge Road. And although there's not a house on the property now, at one time there was a house that's been removed. In conjunction with the adjacent subdivision Waters Cove, this property was actually annexed. When the property was rezoned in Fulton County, it was later annexed into the city of Alpharetta. And at that time, we gave a lot of properties that we annexed the CUP zoning designation because we didn't have an exact fit. But what the applicant is requesting is in accordance with our future land use plan. The UDC requires a 65-foot front setback along Waters Road, and I'll show you the site plan that the applicant is requesting. So the UDC requires a 65-foot setback along the front. The applicant is requesting a reduction. Oh, you can't see. Sorry. Site plan is on the screen, and the applicant is requesting a reduction in the front setback. The Unified Development Code requires a 65-foot setback. The applicant is requesting a 50-foot setback. And in their application, they state that the reason that they're requesting that is they can save additional trees along the rear of the property. And they're also pushing the rear setback to 35 feet instead of 25 feet, which is required. So by shifting it forward, they're allowing more of a required setback on the front. The applicant also gave a typical rendering that they're proposing, and it's my understanding that they haven't picked out the exact architecture, but this is the building that they're planning something similar at both lots. And both lots are over 17,000 square feet, so they do meet the R15, and it's very similar to the sizes of the lots surrounding it. Both of the elevations will front Waters Road, and they will both have their own individual driveway. We also asked the applicant to look at saving additional trees along the front. By moving these closer than the 65 feet and going to the 50-foot setback, pushing them forward, there was a large tree on Lot 1 that would be required for removal. It's a 28-inch water oak. So you'll see with our recommendations, as well as the Planning Commission recommended conditions, we are recommending, if approved, that they have the reduced setback on Lot 2 of 50 feet, but on Lot 1, they keep the 65-foot setback. And by doing so, I think you can see both, maybe, yes. On Lot 1, you would be able to save this 28-inch water oak that's along the front. The report submitted by the applicant states that the property owners within 500 feet were contacted regarding the applicant's intent, and the report states that the only comment they received was at the community zoning information meeting. And at that meeting, they did receive one comment from a resident indicating that trees are breaking a fence, and they also asked about purchasing one of the lots. So their comment was that the fence that's at the rear of the property, that there were some trees that were breaking the existing fence. Item was considered at the November 6th Planning Commission meeting. There were no public comments. After discussion, the commission recommended approval subject to the staff recommended conditions, and there are 9 conditions, and that concludes staff presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you, Ms. Cook. So as far as the setback, what about the property to the south? What is their setback?
So this property to the south here is actually in Johns Creek.
So we don't
And,
care.
you know,
I'm teasing.
No.
I'm simply
And I
teasing.
do have some setbacks listed, but I actually did not include that one. We did find that there was a variance approved at 10355 Waters Road for 50 feet, so we do have some that are 50 feet. And also looking at the site, the rears of the homes are closer than 50 feet to Waters Road, but a lot of them have like a brick wall, decorative wall, or landscaping.
Okay. So have we gotten a complaint from that neighbor on the south side that, about the setback, or it being different than what they have, or?
No.
So no problems there. Thank you for trying to save the trees there. I think that's important for the public to know that we do try and change things when we can to save some larger trees. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Hypes?
To the extent I missed it in the I feel like you set me up because I have a question about water. I have a question about water.
Excuse me.
I may have missed it. Is there has water runoff and stormwater detention and/or runoff been addressed? I didn't see it in the packet. It obviously had a small ranch house with a lot of property before. Now it's got driveway,
Right.
a lot of increased roof space.
So they will have to submit the hydrology report, but the applicants here, they may have already gone through some of that engineering.
Before we approve it, is there anything we need to know about whether or not that has been properly addressed? I wouldn't want water running off into the subdivision that's behind it. And so, you know, is everything in order for us to approve it, including stormwater runoff or retention?
Yes, we haven't seen any concerns.
Okay. Do we have the plans of what they're going to do?
No, that comes if they're approved as part of the land disturbance permit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Have any other questions for Director Cook? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any, what am I talking about? Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Yes, thank you very much. Barry Dunlop with Paradigm Engineering. I'm the applicant. This one? Okay. Thank you. My name is Barry Dunlop. I'm with Paradigm Engineering. I'm the applicant and the civil engineer for this particular project, and I appreciate your time this evening. And thank you very much, Kathy, for your presentation of the project. And if you don't mind, I'd like to sit here and show a couple of images, because I do want to talk about the setbacks and the conditions that we've requested. Do I need to do something to turn this on? Okay. All right. I hope y'all can see this. This is slightly zoomed in to this lot number one, and the condition that we applied for was to reduce the setbacks on both lots, and staff determined that there was an existing tree right here. This is a 28-inch oak. There's an existing tree right here that they wanted me to try to save. that line right there is the existing setback. So if we were to build the home on the existing setback, that tree would be removed. So in order to save that tree, I had to push the home an additional 30 feet back from the original setback. So that's where we came up with this diagram here. Now, in order for me to get any semblance of a backyard, this is 30 feet back from the house, not even big enough to put a pool, just enough to probably do a nice patio or have a playground for the tenants. I'm sorry, the owners. I've had to push the grading all the way back and put in a retaining wall back here, and I've lost all of these trees that were back here as a buffer to this resident. Every single one of these trees would be removed. In fact, it would be 115 inches of trees that are going to be removed in order to save this one 28-inch tree. So that was the reason for me to want to have the setback pulled up to a 50-foot setback, remove that particular tree, and then I could have as much as a 45-foot rear yard and grading and no retaining walls, no additional cost to the owner, and still be able to save all of these trees back here in this backyard to create a good buffer between here and my rear neighbor. We feel as if the trees are being removed, we can replant some new trees that would maybe even be some larger caliber trees if need be. But this was the reason for my request to adjust the conditions so that both lots 1 and 2 would have a 50-foot front setback. I've imposed on myself a 35-foot rear setback as opposed to a 25-foot rear setback, and that the plan that we introduced, the 924 plan that we introduced, is the plan that we would like to pursue, as opposed to this is the 923 alternate plan. Does that make sense? Is that coming through? Do y'all understand that? Okay. And so once again, you can see by pushing the house back, the site raises an elevation, as you go back to the rear of the property. So in order for me to hold a home in here, I've got to grade that out and put in a retaining wall. And once again, I lose all of those trees that are back there in that buffer area that I'll end up saving this entire tree canopy right through here by pulling my house forward and losing that one 28-inch tree right there. That's the tree that I would be removing. And once again, I'll iterate that if we put the house on the original setback, which is right here, I would still be losing the tree. I'm forcing that house back an additional 30 feet to even have an attempt to save that tree. Are there any questions?
Councilman Mitchell.
I just want to clarify. So the 924 plan is the plan that Ms. Cook presented to us. Is that correct?
That is. That was the very first one that she showed. And then there was an alternate plan that I gave that showed me what it would look like for me to try to save that tree in the front yard. Okay. And the staff wrote the conditions such that that they liked this alternate, and they wanted me to not have a setback reduction on lot 1. They wanted me to have the home pushed back at like this alternate had shown.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, Councilman Hypes.
Now that there's going to a proposal for 2 houses instead of the ranch that was there on it.
Yes.
How is the water runoff being handled?
Okay, so like I said earlier, the topography raises up in the back of the site, So all the stormwater is naturally going to drain towards Waters Road. Now, because this is a 2-lot subdivision, it's not big enough to have a master detention system. Each home will have stormwater mitigation per house. That'll be basically be made up of like a wet well. They'll collect the downspouts and push that water through a dry wet well system so that there's some percolation in the ground, and then the additional runoff that's not percolating during that storm event will run into Waters Road. But like Kathy said, that we have to show the design of that during the land disturbance permit process.
Okay, I think I understand that. I'm not going to go into it. You have a plan that's being addressed. The wet well concept is new terminology.
Yeah, well, just think of it this way. None of the storm water goes to the rear neighbors. It all goes to Waters Road.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
We do not have any in favor, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come speak in favor of this item, now's your chance. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment in favor. Do we have any public comment cards in opposition?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
But once again, if you are an opponent of this item, now's your chance to come forward. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Didn't have any negatives, so I won't ask if you've got any rebuttal because you had no complaints. And I'll call for a motion, the item, unless we have any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that council approve Z-25-14/V-25-31 BRKT Properties /10235 Waters Road, subject to the 9 conditions set forth in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Hypes to approve, second by Councilman Mitchell. Any discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of the item as outlined, please vote yes.
Only because I can see the screen, Mayor, it is 5-0, with 5 votes cast in favor.
Okay, so it is unanimous. There we go.
I do hope that y'all realize that that's the plan that y'all voted for. So we are removing the trees along this backside. Is that what y'all intended? No. Okay, well, that's what y'all just voted for. So Kathy, I don't know if maybe you can explain that?
I think it needs to come from staff at this point, if you could
Okay.
refrain from talking just for a minute.
And for clarification, my motion was for the variance for the 50-foot setback and 35-foot rear.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was voting for the plan that moved the house forward.
So staff had recommended this plan that would save the 28-inch water oak. The applicant said that these trees would have to be removed, which are mostly pines at the back, so they could be replanted. So our recommendation was to save the tree at the front. So he was requesting to be able to move both of them forward, which is a different plan than what staff was recommending.
Yeah, I'm not going to change my motion. We've already voted on it, but
Well,
if somebody procedurally wants to do something.
I would like to.
let me ask Ms. Eswine what our options are.
You could, somebody could make a motion to reconsider the matter, and then if everyone is in agreement with that, then you could have a new motion to replace.
Would we
Well,
like to entertain a motion to reconsider?
I'd like to entertain a motion to reconsider, yes, because I did ask about that, and I was told that it was the plan from the 24th, and it was not what the staff was recommending.
So
So can I make a motion that we reconsider this vote?
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Dorito.
So you need
Motion-
this plan number.
And Mr.
Motion.
Mayor, if we could have one moment just to reset the voting system, since this item has been voted upon.
Yeah, it's going to take us a minute to sort this out.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second.
Are we able to
Do we
talk?
have any discussion?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yes, I guess that could be your question.
Don't we have to vote on the motion first to reconsider, or no?
I do have in our record that Councilmember Mitchell offered the motion, but I did not have a second recorded. Doug?
Councilman Dorito.
Yes, and then we would need to vote on the motion to reconsider, yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
For the motion to reconsider, not the item itself.
Right. So first we have to vote to reconsider before we can reconsider. Do we have to do public comment on the motion to reconsider?
We have no public comments for the motion to reconsider, but you're welcome to call for it.
Just in case anybody's here who wants a motion to reconsider comment. Seeing no one come forward, all those in favor of the motion as outlined by Councilman Mitchell, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll tell you that did pass 5-0.
Okay, great. So we can reconsider.
Okay.
You may ask a question, Councilman Heights.
Well, Mr. Cook, I'm going to fall on the sword. I got confused, and so I'm just going to own up. I got confused which plan was the subject of the vote. So, and when we were going through 923s and 924s, I thought I had it straight, and I did not, so I apologize for that. My question for you, Ms. Cook, is what is staff's rationale for recommending not doing the variance and keeping that tree versus the trees in the back? What's the thinking behind that? I missed this whole thing, and I apologize for this.
No, that's okay. So the 28-inch water oak was found to be in good condition by the arborist. Some of the rationale is that the applicant has not selected their house plan, their footprint. These are what they say could be built. Because they aren't sure what the footprint's going to be, then we believe that saving the tree along the Waters Road was good for the streetscape, it was good for the site. Also, looking at the trees that are at the back, a lot of those are pine trees. There's some oaks, but they're smaller. So although you're going to grade the back of the property, you can certainly replant. I mean, you can replant it with evergreens, you can replant. But a 28-inch water oak on the front, of course, is a more substantial tree, especially if you haven't selected the final footprints of the homes to know how it will be impacted. So it was our recommendation, since they were going from allowances for one single-family home to two, and they do not know what the floor plate will be, that they should keep that tree along the front and go ahead and push the building back.
So these lots, especially the northern lot, backs up to a cul-de-sac subdivision, some of which have swimming pools in the backyard. I'm looking at Google Map images. The trees that are in the back of the applicant's property, are they sufficient for screening, or would they not be good at screening the property behind it? You said pine trees I would not think would be good for screening.
Right, there's a lot of pine trees, there's some smaller oaks, but there's certainly, I think it would be better screened if they put in some evergreen trees, like a mix of magnolias, cryptomera, those types of trees at the rear.
And with respect to placement of the home, the applicant has shown us two versions with an outline of the footprint of the home, but are you saying that's a work in progress?
That's correct. That's
I mean,
my
we've
understanding.
had cases come for us where we actually wanted to see, a rendering of the home and actually what it looks like. So we don't have a rendering or even a footprint of how the house is going to sit on the property?
He gave a typical floor plan, but he said that may not be the final selection. And then he gave this to show what the architecture would look like, but it's not finalized.
So that's not the footprint of the house, that's the style of what the house would
Right.
be? Okay, well, that's,
And we put a condition number 2 that just says it shall be similar, but we don't know that this is the final footprint of the house. It could be a smaller house, it could be a different house, different size home.
all right, that's helpful for me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Mitchell?
Thank you. I feel like, I don't feel like it was intentional, but I feel like we've kind of been misled, because when I see this house plan, I'm thinking that's the house plan, and it matches up with with the overall plan that is shown. And so, and then when we're told it's going to be, we're saving 115 square inches of trees in the back, but they're pine trees, which are not specimen trees per se.
Right.
But what we're trying to do as a city is save the 28-inch specimen tree on the 924 plan.
Correct.
Is that the 924 plan or the 923?
On the
plan?
923, as staff.
923 plan.
Yes.
So just for clarity, your plan is the 923 plan that saves the 28-inch oak tree in the front.
Yes.
And you're okay with, and I'm asking, you're okay with not having a site plan or home plan?
We are, because we did put that the style has to be similar to what's shown here. And condition 8, which says you have to save the trees as shown on the plan that's 92325, would save that 28-inch oak tree along the front. And that's because we don't have a final.
So once we have a final plan, they may or may not need a detention wall in the back of this property, right?
It could change. It depends on how much they build on the property as to how big the detention would have to be.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cook.
So based on, did anyone have any more questions? Councilman Dorito, then Councilman Brady.
Thank you. Kathy was mentioned by Mr. Dunlap about when he was explaining, I guess, the Plan 23 versus Plan 24, that you couldn't put a pool in the back, it would just be more of a play area type thing. This type of home, I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint. If I'm going to invest in a home like this, I'm going to want a bigger backyard that, if I want to, potentially put a pool in there, right? So are we putting a requirement here to not allow the flexibility to allow that to happen?
It'll definitely be a smaller backyard if you're saving the tree along the front. It is. I mean, you're going to have people that may not want to buy that lot because they wanted a larger backyard, but you could have people that, want more trees and screening and not necessarily pool.
Okay, thank you.
I guess it all comes down to choice, right? So you don't have to divide the lot. You could keep the 0.8 acre and build a bigger house and not worry about it. The choice is to divide it and to put in smaller or homes with a smaller profile around the outside.
Sure.
What's the maximum impact to the critical root zone that we allow in this application?
20%.
Up to 20%?
Yes.
So there's some movement that can kind of go into that. Could we allow 25% just as a offering? Is that, or do you, because I know 30 starts to create a little problem.
We have allowed up to 30%, but we try to keep it to the 20%. But yes, we could look at 25% as approved by the arborist, just to make sure that it's not, of course, in the root plate or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just offering kind of the rest of the council, that might be something in the movement in there that might be able to work for there. But I totally agree. We don't know, right? It could come in, the garage could be positioned a different way. The impacts could be there, but it does offer a little bit of savings on both sides. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, gentlemen? Councilman Hypes.
To the applicant, Are you going to be in a position, in your mind, in any time in the near future, to bring back something that shows the footprint of the house and the, the elevation of how and where it will sit on the property, since you're asking for a variance?
Well, I'm the civil engineer. I'm not the architect. And when my client approached me with this site, we discussed different architectural types. The original plan that I submitted to the city actually just had a rectangle, just to imply that there was going to be a unit there. But when we talked some more with staff, I went through some footprints that I've got from other projects that had a side entry garage as opposed to a front entry garage, a courtyard type garage, something that I thought could fit the odd shape of the property, because the property is not rectangular, it's a slanted odd shape. And that's where we came up with this particular footprint. The idea is that these homes are probably going to be somewhere between 1.5 to 1.7 million. They're not going to be small homes. They're going to be some relatively nice homes, probably in the 4,500 square foot range. So they'll have a footprint that's very similar to this. That's going to be a 3-car garage. That's why that portion juts out like it does. So I think the footprint will end up being very close to this. I can't say that this is the final footprint because I'm not the architect, but that's the intent. And we're hoping to, like someone said, if you're going to put that much money into a house, you kind of want to have a backyard to go along with it.
It's not for me to have a dialogue, just to ask questions, but if you're asking $3.5–4 million for a couple of homes, I'd like to know what the architecture is. I'd like to know how it's going to sit on the lot if you're looking for a variance.
Right. And that's what the BZA is for.
I'm sorry, it's not a time for you to offer any further comments. The public comment period is closed. You can absolutely ask questions, but
The
he's
applicant's
trying to
time has
interject.
expired as far as
Got you.
comments.
But you answered my question. You don't know about, you answered my question. Thank you.
So do we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I make a motion that we defer this for 30 days.
Our
when
next
the
council meeting
would
is
be.
December 8th.
No, longer. I'd like to give them a little longer than that.
We could do the first meeting or the second meeting in January.
Is that the 12th?
No, it's all the way at the end of the month. It's like the 27th.
I'm sorry?
January 27th?
I'm checking.
I have a calendar everywhere except when I need one.
We have a
Yeah, my
meeting
issue is
January 26th.
My
26th.
issue with December 8th is we've got holidays in between, and in fairness to them, I don't want to handcuff them. So what's the meeting?
It would be December 8th would be or January 26th.
I make a motion that we defer to January 26th to allow the applicant to bring forward architecture and footprints and elevation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Mitchell. As outlined, do we have any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. See you in January, sir. So next item up will be Z-25-12, Hurdy/302 North Main Street. Director Cook, once again, you have the floor.
The next item, the area shown to you on the screen, and if approved, would allow for an existing 2-story building to be used for residential dwelling unit over office or certain commercial uses on .357 acres in the downtown. A rezoning is requested from O&I to DTLW. The property is located at 302 North Main Street on the west side of North Main Street and north of Mayfield Road. Property is zoned O&I, was developed actually in 1955 with a two-story, 2,960 square foot building. Let me show you what that looks like. It's pretty far off the road, but you've probably, it's pretty far back. And it also already has some concrete along the front, which they will reuse stripe, of course, and landscape for parking. The plan depicts the reuse of the two-story building. Here's a closer look at the building. And you may remember this. This was the one that was given a conditional use for the Pavlova Bakery. That was back in 2022. Access to the property will continue through the existing curb cut off of North Main Street, and they'll be required to put a minimum 10-foot landscape strip along North Main. And actually, they're proposing to renovate the existing building, so it's a duplex now. And this plan was actually approved by the Design Review Board when they were going to redevelop it for the Pavlova and then have office on the top floor. The applicant proposes, again, using the existing 2,000 square foot parking lot. It has a capacity of up to 9 parking spaces. The use of the building would require anywhere between 8 and 10. It depends on if they use it for commercial or office. And a few months ago, we did change the parking requirements in the downtown if you're north of Mayfield Road. So they would be required to meet the parking that's required elsewhere throughout the city. So if it was on Windward Parkway, building retail or office or North Point. So they will be required to meet those parking requirements. We did put a chart in the staff report, and it shows that because of the small size of the space, if they convert it to office on the first floor, they would be required to have 7 parking spaces. Again, they're going to be living on the top floor. And if it's commercial on the first floor, if it was the bakery that they were previously approved for, the small space of 1,600 square feet, they would be required to have 8 parking spaces. They do meet the minimum 10% amenity space, which is required to be 1,555 square feet for the site. Front yard will be landscaped to comply with the minimum open space requirement. And although the building was approved on June 16th, 2023 by the Design Review Board, if approved, staff is recommending that panels be added to the storefront glass. They did attend the Community Zoning Information Meeting, which was on October 8th, and there were a few public comments, but nobody had any objections. Item was considered at the November 6th Planning Commission meeting. There were no public comments. After discussion, the commission recommended approval subject to the staff recommended conditions. We have 8 different conditions for your consideration, and that concludes staff presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Councilman Hypes.
Director Cook, I see it's zoned O&I, office, industrial.
Institutional.
Institutional, my mistake. And the future land use is mixed use, live, work. But I also see that there has been some prior zonings where we have rezoned individual parcels downtown live, work.
Correct.
And from a city planning staff perspective, as the appropriate projects come forward, is that a direction that we are moving in as a city for continuity?
Yes. So the future land use shows in that area of the downtown that DTLW is the appropriate future use.
Okay.
Councilman Mitchell.
Ms. Cook, this went through the DRB, but has our downtown consultant, since it's on Main Street, have they looked at this? Because it doesn't seem to comply with any of the design styles.
Yeah, so this one was not, we did not send this one. The downtown consultant we have on board now has not seen this. And the reason is because this had already gone through the design review board back in 2023. We do have a new downtown consultant on board that has not looked at this.
I think that needs to be added as a condition. Would you support that?
Yes, and that's, you know, one of the conditions that we added, even though we knew it had already been through DRB, was to at least, you know, go back and put these panels around the storefront.
Right.
But yes, we can add that and get some assistance from the downtown consultant.
What you just showed, the top version, it would not cost that much, and it would be totally more desirable.
It's very similar.
Yes.
There's one we found
The
on
overall
the,
layout is very similar, but
on the
that
internet.
slanted roof, none of that complies with our downtown architectural standards, and I think it needs to if it's going to be on North Main. All right, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Director Cook? Councilman Hypes, did you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Director Cook. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
Hello and good evening. Thank you for hearing our reconsideration for rezoning the property at 32.
You might want to speak up a little bit.
Yes, and I forgot to say my name, so let's start over. My name is Alexis Severit. I live at 285 Pebble Trail, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009. And I'm here to request the consideration of a rezoning of the property located at 302 North Main. As Director Cook mentioned, this had already been approved by the Design Review Board 2 years ago, and what the owners are requesting is basically to reassign the use of the top floor as a residential unit for themselves to live. So it's going to be used by the owners of the property. And all the considerations and requests by the staff meeting were accepted, and the owners are working on the design, adding the panels and any other recommendation in order to bring that property back to life and be used properly. Any questions?
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
So this example that's being shown right now, you can't see it, but it's on the, we'll call it example 1. It has the railroad crossing in front. The owners have seen this, and they're okay with replicating that.
Yes, adding the panels and any other recommendation that we receive from the staff.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's very simple. I don't think it's a big deal.
I don't either, but it's a big improvement. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any public comment in favor of this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come forward and speak in favor of this item, now is your chance. Feel free.
Denise Oliveris, 4090 Breckenridge Court, Alpharetta. I don't know if it's in favor or against till I have an answer to
Well,
your
you
question.
need to decide because we have to time it based on whether you're advocating for or against. So this is an opportunity for someone to speak in favor.
Well,
And then we'll provide an opportunity for people who are in opposition. So,
well, okay, I'll qualify my in favor. I like the idea of residence and commercial, on the condition, though, that the owners can't decide 3 months after they're upstairs to rent it out, because that changes the play in the parking lot. I'm disappointed, having moved to Alpharetta several years ago, at the limits of parking space often in public spaces, the access to and from public, commercial locations. So when I hear this is potentially residence and commercial, while I like the mix and I like the value that brings to a town and the ability for people to live where they can walk as well, I would be in favor of it as long as it really is the owners residing up above and it doesn't have the ability to become a rental, the minute after it's populated or constructed, I should say.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Eswine, any thoughts or comments?
If you're asking how I counted her time, is that what you're asking? Or are you asking about a condition for?
I was just making sure that we hadn't crossed the line.
No, not at all. That's a very common way of people providing their input. So I calculated the time and we're ready to move forward.
Just wanted to make sure we were keeping things legal. So if there's no one else advocating for, is there anyone who would like to come speak in opposition? I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment in opposition of this applicant. If she would like to come forward, she has the opportunity to. She doesn't seem interested in coming forward to rebut anything because it was in favor. Do you have any comments based on the speech? Okay. So do we have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z25-12, Hurdy 302 North Main Street, subject to the following conditions, and the conditions remain the same except for condition number 3, which will read, comply with the downtown architectural standards. The applicant shall add panels to the ground floor storefront glass, replace modern railings, and add mullions to windows as approved by staff, and that the design consultant / architect will look at the property and follow the example as shown in example A that Ms. Cook showed to the public, and that they're asking for this to be owner occupied. And so on condition number 9, that the property will remain owner occupied. And such time as it does not, they would have to return to council for approval.
We have a motion by Councilman Mitchell. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor of the motion as outlined by Councilman Mitchell in favor, please vote yes. Congratulations. Passes unanimously. So the next item I have will be, that's item CU-25-16, Golf Envy. Director Cook?
Yes. The next item is shown to you on the screen, and the request, if approved, would allow Golf Envy to operate a recreation facilities indoor business in a 3,278 square foot suite in the terraces at Windward Shopping Center. And Golf Envy is a 24/7 indoor golf simulator facility. Property is located at 3070 Windward Plaza, Suites Q and R, near the northeast corner of Windward Plaza and Windward Parkway. And here's, you can kind of see where the shopping center is here. Of course, Activate Games was just approved to be, to operate within the old CVS. And Golf Envy is actually at the back on the top floor. Here's a blow up of that top area. Property zone CUP, subject to the Windward Master Plan Pod 4, which is designated commercial. Property is developed with a strip shopping center, 2 outbuildings. Golf Envy, again, is 24/7 indoor business that offers its members the use of state-of-the-art golf simulator technology that fits within their schedule. The 24/7 model allows members to practice golf before early morning meetings, after late work hours, or during off-peak times when traditional facilities are closed. And the applicant's estimating that overnight users would represent about 5 to 10% of the total users. Regular staffed hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and weekends will be variable based on demand. Business will utilize an access control system by the way of a smartphone application, which will allow real-time monitoring, automated booking, emergency contact, and video surveillance. And they're going to have actually 4 private bays. This is what the floor plan will look like. And they can accommodate up to 5 persons each. So minimal trips, PM, AM peak trips expected. Community zoning information meeting was held on October 8th. There were no public comments, and this item was considered at the November Planning Commission meeting. There were no public comments. After discussion, the commission recommended approval, subject to staff recommended conditions, and we have those 5 conditions. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Do we have any questions for Director Cook? Councilman Brady?
I'm just curious of the 24/7. I mean, I can understand someone going in there at 5 a.m. or that, but are we okay with that from the security perspective on a retail shopping center?
We are, and really it's similar to those like Anytime Fitness. There's a lot of fitness facilities that have that too, where you have the surveillance and you actually have the access code on the phone. So this would be similar, smaller actually, since only 5 per bay.
City doesn't have any problem with that at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Director Cook? Thank you, ma'am. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Kyle Romeo, and this is part of a franchise concept that's in the process of originating out of California. That'll stretch to be nationwide. The idea is also, too, that these will be network simulators, so you'll be able to have competitions, track your golf stats, data. It's really geared around game improvement. Many of you are probably familiar with Topgolf. That is an entertainment venue that's weaved golf into it. This is really dedicated towards somebody looking to golf more often. We all know if you're a golfer that it takes a lot of time. So being able to play Pebble Beach, since you'll have courses that you could select, you could play Pebble Beach in an hour, hour and a half, and allows you to stay connected to the game without some of the bells and whistles that you might see at some of the more entertainment-focused venues. So we're looking for approval to be able to have this 24/7. After meetings such as this, you could actually go and be able to play some golf, to blow off some steam. The idea of the 24/7 concept is that there are professionals like first responders, medical professionals, and others who may not be able to golf because of life's demands, and we want to kind of lower those barriers.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment? Well, first, do we have any questions for the applicant? Councilman Dorito.
Mr. Romeo, right? Mr. Romeo?
Yes.
Can you explain the surveillance after hours when there's no personnel there? Like, what type of surveillance is in something like this?
So we'll have cameras that will be monitored. Obviously, there's a door lock, but folks, because it's membership-based, it's not something that somebody can just walk into and take advantage of. So we'll have active surveillance with cameras inside the shop and on the door, so that we'll be able to see if there's anything untoward that happens to it, and we will tie that in to some type of law enforcement responder.
Is someone monitoring the surveillance of who goes in and out?
I believe it's, I'll have to sort of check into the details, but it's a service that, you'll be able to tap into, and I'll have to subscribe to once we open up business for business.
The reason why I ask is what stops anyone, even youth, from becoming a member and bringing in items that should not be in there while they're utilizing your facility?
Ultimately, because you have the smartphone application and it's your identity, somebody would have to take your smartphone in order to be able to have access. So nobody can just sort of go into the place unless they actually have the ID of the member. So there would need to be some type of, I don't want to say crime committed, but taking of the device that would allow you access.
I guess, let me put the question this way. If someone becomes a member, they're going to have access to the facility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no age limitation, correct?
You would need to have a minor accompanied by a grown-up, but at the same time, again.
I'm just trying to see how someone would be, I'm not saying this would happen, but, we always think about the worst-case scenario of bringing alcohol in there underage and, enjoying around the golf at Pebble Beach, whatever course they select.
Mm-hmm.
And, doing things inside the facility where there's really no personnel on staff.
So
I just want, how do you?
we will be able to track.
How do you
access.
police that, I guess? Is,
We would be able to track access to who comes in. So if somebody puts their smartphone and it's John Doe, we'll know that John Doe.
but you can't see what they're bringing in, if they're bringing something in, right?
We can't see, what they're bringing in. No, we can't.
That's concerning to me. But that's why I'm asking the question. Because people do silly things when they can, so.
Understood.
Right. Thank you.
I think okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
However, if anyone would like to come speak in favor, now's your chance to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment in favor. Do we have anyone that would like to speak in opposition? I don't see anyone coming forward in opposition, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, make a motion that council approve CU-25-16 Golf Envy/Windward MP Pod 4, subject to the conditions set forth in the staff report.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Hypes and a second by Councilman Mitchell to approve. Do we have any discussion?
I would just like for it to be noted that Councilman Dorito's quickie was 1 minute and 38 seconds. Thank you.
Mayor, I appreciate Councilman Mitchell's comment.
Gentlemen, let's focus on the task at hand. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes, otherwise vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations, sir. So that'll wrap up. Everything else that was on our printed agenda has either been withdrawn or deferred. So it is the opportunity for anyone who is just sitting here waiting for their final opportunity to speak in public comment. Now is your opportunity. I don't see anyone coming forward for public comment. Do we have any reports? Councilman Hypes.
Thank you, Mayor. This Saturday, it is one of Alpharetta's favorite events, one of our best attended events. We have the Alpharetta tree lighting at Town Green this Saturday. The events are starts at 5 o'clock, runs till 8 o'clock. Santa Claus will be on hand, and sometime around 6:30, 6:45, I think Santa will be lighting the tree, but there'll be lots of activities. It's always a beautiful event. Parks and Rec knocks it out of the park in terms of organizing that event. So please pass the word. Join the fun. Ho, ho, ho.
Any other reports? Councilman Dorito?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the most recent city election and express my sincere appreciation for the residents of the city of Alpharetta. I think and the candidates, all candidates across the board. I think we had a great experience of, elections serve a real good function to be able to outreach and speak to a lot of our residents' concerns and business leaders in the community. And I found it to be a very positive election experience. And what I learned is, yeah, there's always concerns out there about, managing growth and things of that nature. But in the vast majority of discussions I've had with residents and voters was extremely positive as to the direction of the city and the things that many people have accomplished, not just myself, but I'm a very small part of it, but as I've talked about all the employees of the city and the 89 people we appointed to various commissions and past councils and mayors and stuff, I believe had a lot to do with where the city is today. So it was great to hear that, a very positive experience. I want to congratulate Ms. Reeves, who's out in the audience, and Katie. We don't really have a formal dress code, but as you can tell, some of us choose different ways to dress for the city council meeting. So you could decide what you want to do yourself. But congratulations.
So before we wander much further than that, I do just have a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. First of all, Mr. Lagerbloom and I had the opportunity to attend an event hosted by Seva Diwali. Some of our Indian American neighbors here in Alpharetta had, throughout the season of Diwali, not just the day that we are aware of celebration with fireworks and things like that, but thousands of members of this organization across the nation, but specifically here in North Fulton and this area, had raised thousands of pounds of food to contribute to our food banks and things like that. I thought it was an exceptional event. We actually went last year, but last year it was at Union Hill, and it was cold, and it was outside. And fortunately, we had an opportunity to have a video set up in a hotel down in Roswell. We did cross the border into Roswell for the event. But it was just heartwarming to see a part of our community that we don't often see all that often because they live all around us, and yet they have their own organizations and things like that. And on a similar note, I would like to invite all of you tomorrow night for the interdenominational Thanksgiving service. It's an event that we host every year. We have, as long as I can recall, where all of our institutions of faith, our churches, the mosque, typically all of the other faiths are represented and participate in this event. It's going to be at the Alpharetta Methodist Church tomorrow night. And if you haven't attended, I encourage you to do so. We are a really special community, and we're much more diverse than most people realize or give us credit for. I encourage you to attend if you can. It's a great, especially in a world that seems so divided by politics and all these other different things. It's nice to see a community coming together, regardless what their faith is. So that's all I have. Any other reports? All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Dorito, second by Councilman Mitchell. All those in favor, please vote yes. And it's unanimous. Meeting is over. Thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
I'm looking forward.
Good.
So we're on the schedule, we skipped one.
Right.
Felt like everybody was loud.
Mhm.
Lots going on.
Yep. And I haven't been to him up there in a while.
Yeah.
Good.
Seth, you're a very busy man. I never want to diminish how busy you are. I'm leaving Penmother and doing fresh market pickup if you want to ride shotgun. And I just thrown it out
Okay.
to be
Where
silly.
will we eat?
No, we